They destroyed a little boy's happiness and hurt the one person who protected him most. But when a group of bikers overheard his shaking voice and saw tears rolling down his innocent cheeks, everything changed. What started as bullying turned into a mission. And those leather-wearing men weren't going to stop until justice was served, because sometimes heroes ride motorcycles, and sometimes they show up exactly when you think you're all alone and afraid, hoping someone would finally stand up for you, as the boy whispered the truth through trembling lips, pointing toward the distant old factory where his fears lived. Every day, and the bikers exchanged one silent look before their engines roared like thunder. And the story begins when the boy first realized his world wasn't safe anymore, but his courage would soon awaken as he said, "They broke my toy and hit my mom," and that's when Aiden held onto the bright red fire truck toy like it was the last piece of joy he owned after moving to this rundown town in Indiana, where life felt heavier ever since his dad left, and his mom worked double shifts at a dusty factory just to afford a small apartment with creaky floors and patchy wallpaper. And when she smiled, Aiden believed the world could still be kind until the day those 3 factory men saw him playing outside during his mom's lunch break and laughed at him, calling him a poor kid with trash toys, and he tried to ignore them, clutching his fire truck tighter, but one of them snatched it away and crushed it beneath his boot, while the others shoved his mom when she ran out to protect. Her son and Aiden fell to the ground watching the only person who loved him get hurt, and in that moment something broke inside his little heart, making him run away, crying, finding himself alone on the edge of a long road where engines rumbled. In the distance, and a group of bikers slowed down, curious about the small child, wiping his tears. And when their leader crouched to his level, asking what happened, Aiden tried to speak, but his throat tightened, until finally he pointed toward the factory. The biker leader Jax, with his rough beard and tattoos, felt something he hadn't felt since his own childhood. A protective rage crawling under his skin, while the rest of his biker family removed their helmets, listening closely to Aiden's stuttering words as he explained the men who broke his toy and hit his mom still worked inside the huge gray factory where machines screamed louder than workers' rights, and Jax asked gently where his mom was now, and Aiden shook his head because she hadn't come back out, and he was terrified they might still be hurting her inside. And Jax's jaw clenched as he vowed they wouldn't let anything else happen to her, gripping his leather gloves while the bikers mounted their roaring motorcycles, promising Aiden he was safe now and he could ride along. But Aiden looked back, scared, unsure if he should trust these strangers, until one biker woman named Raven held her pinky out, telling him heroes come in all shapes, and sometimes we wear steel boots instead of capes. And with the bravest tiny nod, Aiden climbed onto her bike, pressing his cheek against her jacket, as they rolled forward like a thunderstorm toward the factory gates, where Aiden's tears turned into a trembling hope while, deep inside that building, his mom still struggled on the floor, begging them to stop as the bikers approached the entrance. Inside the factory, Beth struggled to breathe as those men yelled at her, calling her names, claiming she shouldn't have embarrassed them for bullying her son while she tried to crawl away, reaching for her phone. But one of them kicked it aside, making her cry out in pain until suddenly a thick shadow blocked the light from the doorway and metal boots echoed on concrete. As Jack stepped inside with eyes burning like wildfire behind him, the biker crew fanned out, one cracking his knuckles, another resting a heavy chain over his shoulder, yet still silent because they didn't need threats. Their presence was enough to freeze the bullies in fear. And Beth blinked, realizing Aiden wasn't alone. Someone came for them, someone powerful, stronger than those cruel men. And as Jax helped her stand, he growled that nobody touches a kid or his mom in their town, and the bikers forced the men back, hands up, voices shaking, while Aiden peeked from behind Raven, his tiny heart pounding as he saw his mom bruised but still alive. And Beth managed a weak smile, reaching out for him, while one bully reached for a hidden wrench, which Raven noticed, instantly stepping forward, ready to strike, as the tension snapped like a wire, and everything exploded into chaos when the fight wasn't clean or pretty. Fists crashed against metal pipes, someone threw a crate across the room, and sparks burst from a rattling machine that almost toppled over, while Aiden covered his ears, watching feet and helmets and leather jackets blur into one giant storm of justice the bikers making sure the bullies felt every ounce of fear they had caused others for months. And though Beth tried to yell for them to stop, she saw the pride in Aiden's eyes, knowing for the first time he wasn't powerless anymore. Because people cared, and they weren't backing down until the bullies lay groaning on the cold floor, begging them to leave, but Jax wasn't finished. He growled that they would report everything to the police, every bruise, every threat, every attack on a mother and her child, because justice didn't end with fists. It started there and continued with the law, while Aiden kept staring at his broken fire truck, lying on the ground, crushed but symbolic of his pain. So Jax knelt, grabbing the pieces, telling him they could fix this better than ever before, just like they were fixing what happened here today. And Aiden squeezed his hand, holding on tight. And as sirens echoed in the distance, someone else arrived who changed everything again, as a man in a polished black suit stepped out of a luxury car, looking furious and connected to this dark place in a way that could put everyone in danger, as he demanded to know what was happening inside his factory. The man was Victor Hale, the factory owner, and known in town for two things: money and anger. His slick shoes clicking against the stained concrete as he walked in, scowling at the chaos, demanding why bikers were trespassing inside his business, and who gave them the right to interfere, barking at the police that had just arrived. But Jax stood tall, saying they protected a woman and her son from his violent workers, and Victor scoffed, pretending not to care about the bruised woman, until Aiden stepped forward, clutching Raven's jacket and glaring the bravest glare a 7-year-old had ever shown, telling everyone that these men hurt his mom and broke his only toy. And Victor's face twitched, because he hated bad publicity more than anything. So he ordered the cops to remove the bikers immediately without even asking Beth if she was okay. But the officer in charge shook his head, unable to ignore bruises and witnesses, and Aiden's trembling voice saying, "Please don't let them hurt my mom again." And Victor faced Jax coldly, telling him, "Bikers don't belong near decent families." But Jax smirked, saying, "Then why did they show more decency in 1 hour than Victor had all year?" And the officer turned to Beth, asking if she wanted to press charges, while Victor's eyes narrowed, plotting something cruel because he wasn't done protecting his empire, even if that meant crushing a mother and child, while Aiden tugged Jax's vest, whispering afraid, because Victor looked like he held more power than fists could fight. And suddenly Victor ordered security to throw them all out, claiming Beth was fired, effective immediately, leaving them jobless, homeless, and helpless, unless someone dared to challenge his authority. And Jax cracked a smile as if he already had a plan, because this fight was far from over. And he whispered to Beth they were about to show the whole town what happens when you try to silence the truth. And the next step started when they escorted them outside. But Aiden looked back, seeing those men still smirking like they'd get away with everything. And he felt something rise inside him, a courage he never knew he could have, while the bikers told him they wouldn't leave until this ended. And the battle truly began when Victor stormed back toward his car, acting like he had won something big. But Aiden clung to his mom, still shaking from everything that happened, while the bikers formed a protective wall around them in the parking lot beneath the wide American sky. And Beth felt a deep fear that Victor's revenge could follow them anywhere, because power like his didn't let go quietly. But then Aiden looked up at her, wiping his own tears with a brave little swipe, and he said softly, "Mom, we're not alone anymore." And she realized he was right. These bikers didn't have to stay yet. They chose to stand with them even when the world turned cruel and cold. And Jax placed a gentle hand on Aiden's shoulder, telling him he should be proud of how strong he was today. Because not every hero wears black leather and revs an engine. Some heroes are just little boys who refuse to let bad people win. The police finally arrested the 3 factory men after witnesses spoke up, encouraged by what they saw, the courage spreading like wildfire through the workers who stepped forward one by one, confessing that Victor allowed bullying and injuries and unpaid hours for years, but they'd been too scared to talk until now. And Victor tried to shout orders, but for the first time nobody listened, not even the law, because justice had finally arrived. And it didn't care about wealth or suits or fancy cars. It cared about truth. and a child's voice that demanded fairness. Beth gave her statement, fighting tears as she explained everything. Those men did, and Raven stayed beside her the whole time, gripping her hand like a sister.